Alright guys, welcome back to All Things Outdoors, and today we're going to be hunting for clay. Here we have some clay and we're going to toss it at a tree. Clay. Alright guys, so when you're looking for clay, you want to generally look for an area that has water. A lot of times water has clay deposits, and right here, feel along the bottom, I can actually feel clay already. So we're gonna scoop away any of these rocks and pebbles that could be down there at the bottom and just dig in there. Yeah. It's pretty heavy. It's pretty hard to get it out, but you've got some clay.
Hey,
And as you can see, this is clay.
there's a frog over there.
And oh wow, look at that, we got a frog over there.
I'm gonna go show you guys the frog here.
Try and catch him. Let's see.
Frog there.
Oh,
He crawled back.
see where he went. He went right into here. Should be okay for- Oh well.
Is that the same frog?
Probably. So yeah, generally clay, you can tell by plastic texture how it molds easily in your hands. Now this clay is way too wet right now, so we're gonna
How do
be
you
looking
dry
for
it
clay
off?
somewhere else.
So you just chuck it onto a tree.
We're gonna look for clay
You
somewhere
just
else.
chuck it right on a tree, alright.
So luckily, guys, I know where another spot for clay is. So over here, it looks as though we have some clay.
Yep. Oh, that looks like
That clay
someone
has a lot of sand in it. And you can tell because when you try to mold it together, it's way softer than it should be. If you look at that, see how soft that is? That's way too soft. That means it has a lot of sand in it. And it's so soft, and you can tell because when I shake it, look at that. It melts right into a mud puddle. You won't need that. I'm going to rinse off my hands right here.
Is there good clay in there?
There's no clay in there.
So where are we going then?
We're going to continue onto this place where I have before identified it as clay. It is a lovely day out here right now. And we have a lovely weather right now. It is just absolutely gorgeous today. It's about 70 degrees. And the sun is shining. The sky is blue. And the trees are all growing new leaves. We got some lovely flowers over there. Don't really know what they are. We're going to be looking for clay today. Today's a great day for pottery. So I may actually fire some in my kiln. And if I do that, I will show you how to do it. Pretty easy thing to do. But you gotta have a really hot fire. It is absolutely gorgeous out right now.
So how far are we going to get this clay?
Not very far. You can see the spot from here. Yeah, so we're almost there. You see exactly where the clay is. Guys been here before looking for clay. there. I can see the clay from here. So there's multiple ways that you can use to tell if it's clay. And one of the ways is by its texture. So we'll be showing you some clay that we have right around here. And we'll be showing you all the ways that you can decide if it's clay or not. And if worse comes to worse and you still can't tell what it is, just get a soil test. Test your soil, and if it says that it's a lot of clay, it means you most likely have clay nearby. Luckily, we do have clay nearby, so we can make pottery without having to do too much to get clay. Clay is definitely one of the most essential parts of pottery, other than yourself. Because you can't really do pottery without clay, unfortunately. That'd be nice if you didn't need clay, but then you wouldn't really have much pottery. Would you? So we're going to come over here, and here we are at the clay spot. There's a lot of clay over here. And you can definitely see that there's a lot of clay. And my cousin can pass me the phone, and I will show you guys what the clay looks like. So the way you can tell what clay is if you look around here, as you can see, we got a lot of crackle texture. You can see that the texture is very crackly and not very smooth looking. And as you can see, that is clay. You can tell because it tends to break up into these little nodules like that. And if you squeeze it, it holds together pretty well. It's very smooth usually. Doesn't have, when you scrape at it, see how the finger marks are smooth? That's how you can tell. And we're gonna actually test it to see how great this clay is. I imagine that it's pretty good clay. What you do to test it, just dunk it in water. And as you can see, it immediately softens up. It immediately starts to turn into a nice clay. And that's how you can tell that it's a good clay, because it just molds in your hand like that. I can make a little bowl, I can make a little dish, I can make a little cup maybe, little pinch pot out of clay, and it would just work perfectly. Because this is good clay here. So you can see, you can also tell by its color. Depends on a lot, and around here, around where I live, our clay tends to kind of have this color. Kind of a reddish color. It's orangey kind of color. And you can see that it's usually found by water or by areas that are close to water. Some areas of our soil just have natural clay in them. And luckily, and we're lucky to have good clay that doesn't really need to have anything done to it to make something with it. And that's one of the good things about clay. So that's one of the ways that you can tell. You can also tell by what it feels like, what the clay feels like. So if you have your clay, and you're thinking, and you have your dirt, and you think, gee, is this clay? And you don't know. Well, just pick some up and take a little bit back with you. See, does it mold well? Does it interact with water well? Does it have a nice clay consistency? Is there anything in it that you don't want to be in it? And with all those questions, you can basically get a pretty good idea what your clay is like. And if you still don't know, and you can also test it at the site where you found it. So if you pick up your clay and you still don't know if it's any good clay, then you could just take some of it, take a little bit out of the wherever you found it, and just soak it in water. So we'll pretend that I didn't know if this is clay yet, and I'll just pick some up like this. Pick some of it up. Get any sticks out of it that you don't want. And then I'll just go and get it wet. And if you don't have a lot of water in your area, that's okay. You could just go get water. You can bring your own water, and that'll work just fine. And then you just mold it, knead it, see if it's any good. Does it act like clay?
Is it plastic consistency? Does it have a nice texture? And you can basically get a pretty good idea of what the clay in your area is like, if it's even clay. And that will help you figure out what kind of clay you have, if you have any good clay, and if your clay is good for you to use and you can make your own pottery. This kind of clay is good for making stoneware here. So it's a little bit different than ceramics. You don't use you use different type of clay, which is usually natural clay that you found out in the wilderness. And also, you also tend to not use any like glazes or anything like that. You just use raw clay, and when you fire it, then it makes a nice piece. And this is pretty good clay, actually. It's very smooth when I crush it. See how that's smooth in there? That's one of the ways you can tell. If it was soil, then it would break apart and crumble. And that's normal if it does break apart and crumble, because that just means that your clay is either too dry or it might not even be clay. So, and if it's not clay, that's okay, because you can keep looking. And if you still can't find any, you can always go and buy clay. A lot of places have it. You can go on Amazon and they have clay. This is not anything for Amazon. No, we're not advertising here. That we are not sponsored in any way by Amazon. So we also, and you can tell what your clay is like, and you can get clay anywhere. A lot of craft stores have clay. You can order it. Or you can have someone find your clay. And you can just get your own clay wherever you need to and use it. Oh, we have a bobber in the water. Hate it when people litter. But anyway, it's not on the topic of clay. So, with your clay, you can, and now that you know how to find clay, now you can go anywhere you want and find your own clay. And we'll see you on the next adventure.